We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Julie, would you take roll call, please?
Don Loudon.
Present.
Greg Susan.
Present.
Steve Eisenbarth.
Present.
Robert Pope.
Present.
Aaron Teveball.
Present.
First item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the check register from July 1st and the minutes from June 24th. Any discussion?
I'll make a motion that we accept as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Julie?
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Aaron Teveball.
4.
Greg Susan.
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Okay, next on the agenda is our first public comment time. If there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak to the council, please come forward, state your name and your address.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Scott Zarzy. I'm with the representing the Attorney General's office, Todd Rokita. My address, I live in Pike Township in Marion County, but I'm visiting here today to talk a little bit. We started an outreach division a couple months ago, and so I'm covering this area, and so I'm going around to all of the council meetings and commissioner meetings and introducing myself. Again, my name is Scott Zarzy, and just talk a little bit about what we're doing in the Attorney General's office, because we have certain programs that are available to government entities such as yourself. If you may or may not know, we have an advisory division. So through your state legislature, you can request an advisory opinion by the Attorney General's office. We have all of those laws that go into effect on July 1st. So if there's something that you come across that you're unsure of as to how it applies to you or the council or to Hendricks County, you can ask the Attorney General for an opinion on that, and then we will clarify things for you. We also have things like the unclaimed property division, which has been my most popular one since I've started just a couple of months ago with the Attorney General's office. We give back about $1 million a week in the office to Hoosiers. When I started a couple months ago, I found $400 myself. So I encourage everyone to go on that website. We also have consumer protection. So if some of you may have family members or things or someone that someone calls them up and falsely claims that they're a government entity or something and tries to con them out of getting a social security number or something. So we have programs that will protect the public. I've already had someone call me about their sister who was lives alone and accidentally gave out her social security number over the phone. So we are working with her to monitor that to see if anything pops up. So those are the things that we have at the Attorney General's office. I've emailed everyone, and I'll leave some cards that are available. But if anyone needs any assistance or help or opinions from the Attorney General's office, I am always available for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to come forward? Okay, with no one else coming forward, we'll close that session. Next is council comment and liaison reports. Aaron?
Thank you. The Avon Junior Police and Fire Academy will graduate tomorrow at Harmony Baptist Church at 2 p.m. Officer Stephanie Ingram graduated from the ILEA on June 25th. The police department was selected to join the Crime Gun Task Force. They're one of 5 agencies initially to join and will be eligible for $75,000 each for the next 2 years. The building expansion for the police department now has all the walls and brick completed. The roof is expected to begin very soon. Our National Night Out Against Crime is August 3rd in the Lowe's parking lot from 4 to 8. That's grown obviously over the past several years, so we look for that to get even bigger. And the Citizens Police Academy will graduate July 13th at 6 o'clock. Is that at the PD, Brian? Right here, okay. And everyone's invited to that.
Thank you. Robert?
I've not had any meetings since our last council meeting, but I just wanted to give a big shout out for the Avon Night at the Park. It was a big success. Just a great job to our parks people. That's it.
Thank you. Greg?
I'll continue with what Robert just said about that. I think Gary, Kim, Delbert, as well as the staff, family, grandkids, they did a great job. It wasn't perfect. We learned a lot of things, but we got a lot of good social media comments, which usually isn't the case. So I've told them all, job well done, and they've set the bar high enough for next year. And then in the same vein, Rib Fest was a great hit again. We moved it out to the fairgrounds this year, and we had around 15,000 people.
Wow.
So that's all I have.
Steve?
Yeah, Rib Fest, I was fortunate to get there early enough before everything ran out. That was, but that's understood. Everything was a great demand. It was great. First thing I'll mention is, I know it's on the agenda tonight, so I'll just mention that there was a good review of the designs for the roundabout designer for 100 North and Raceway. And I thought it just shows how some of our designers are listening and how things were going. So I know we're going to hear more about that a little later. Traffic calming policy, we've already reviewed earlier before this meeting, and that's been updated. DPW has been doing a great job on reviewing many standards and policies. And thank you, Steve Moore, for you and your staff and working on that. That's sincerely appreciated, and we definitely, the timing is right. Stormwater Board did not meet last night, but instead the invoices were emailed to each of the board members. I received a copy too, and so basically it's GRW. We're reviewing aerial surveys, professional fees, things like that, and so Ryan will be getting those coming up here soon. And maybe on that same note, with all the rain we've been having, the erosion control all around Avon, we should all keep our eyes open and let Steve and Ryan know where we see things that might have been going beyond the project limits. So that's enough said there. Thank you.
The only thing I'd like to add to any of that is that I appreciate the Washington Township Board meeting with us and our work session that we were able to hold, a week ago now. And that I look forward to more of those meetings in the future and collaborating with some of our other taxing entities. That's all. We have no old business, so we'll move quickly on to new business, the first of which is approval to purchase body cameras.
Thank you very much. For the record, Brian Nugent, Deputy Chief of Police, Avon PD. I wanted to have the opportunity to answer any questions regarding the memo you have in your packet. This memo is, it's got a lot of content in it, so if we can unwrap it as much as you'd like, any questions you may have. This is quite simply a proposal to utilize revenue from fund balances and from, I believe, potentially funds from the CARES Act. We have had conversations internally for the last several years about our technology at the police department. When there was a lot of fashionable approach to investing in body cameras several years ago, we kind of took a step back and looked at it through a little bit of a different lens. We wanted to be judicious about tax dollars. We wanted to be judicious about our technology and not finding ourselves pigeonholed or compartmentalized into a technology that may not be what we need in the next 5 to 6 years. So one of our first priorities was to move into an in-car camera system that could support integration later with a body camera module. So at that point, we did move with a company called WatchGuard. WatchGuard Video has provided a very dependable product for us over the last 5 or 6 years. Officers that have that have an attachment to their uniform that is a body microphone. They can activate it while outside of the vehicle. That actually generates all the cameras inside the car to begin activating and creating permanent recorded events. Over the last year and a half, we were beginning the phases of exploring what that looks like, because at that point we were able to put these camera systems in all of our vehicles. All of our uniformed officers have had these in-car cameras. They have a lot of very unique recording event technologies that can allow us to go back and generate recordings that they may otherwise have not created during the intense moments that they may be out in service. And so as we started to work with WatchGuard on this, we eventually found out that Motorola had actually acquired WatchGuard. And so during that transition, we had a little bit more of a hesitation. There's usually some rough road during the buyout process. They actually have come on board and have done a pretty good job creating the newest platform that they have for the body cameras, which is called the V300. So V is in Victor 300. I have one of the models here today. We offered this to you guys to take a look at during our work session prior to our meeting at 7 o'clock this evening. This camera is capable of up to 1080 resolution. That's a very important component of what we do. And you're out in the field and you are encountering people in high stress situations, very quick movements, people running, furtive gestures where they may be concealing weapons on their persons. It's important that we have high resolution, high frame rates on these recordings as well, so they can be scrutinized appropriately in our judicial system. So this proposal seeks to fund one of these cameras for each of our sworn officers. That's a total of 35 officers as we stand here today. This camera proposal is obviously split down for you in a breakdown, which also includes 5-year warranties. I did confirm just now again with the staff at Motorola Solutions / WatchGuard that the warranty does have to be purchased at the time of the initial implementation. And so I wanted to make sure you had the comfort of that knowledge to be confident. I know earlier my answer was in fact that, but I wanted to make sure
Why
I
did
could
they make
confirm.
that statement? Why do you have to purchase it?
It's just their model. Their business model is a bumper to bumper is what they call it. They just said it's a bumper to bumper on this. So any sort of damage that this device would be experienced out in the field, you send it back in, no questions asked. They would replace it and send you a replacement one. So the gentleman I spoke to just a few moments ago, his name's Kevin Bradley, just confirmed that the warranties are not something that you can add at a later date, along with the initial onboarding of this proposal this evening. I would note that this does require an additional investing of our server. This is actually a Linux-based platform. It's not a Microsoft platform. And so in speaking with our IT staff, they provided the quote there that you have in your packet for the Linux platform. They were actually pretty excited about this. In the world of IT, Linux is a little bit less vulnerable to software attacks and whatnot. So they were pretty excited to see this as a potential platform to move into a Linux. And then your last cost there, a little over almost $7,000. That's the actual manual labor that will actually be charged to from our vendor to actually retrofit the machines in our cars with the proper cables and the charging cradles that will be required of the officers to have this in their vehicle every day. The camera will charge overnight in their vehicles. And so it's a pretty comprehensive approach. It includes the data storage, the hardware itself, the warranties, and the installation. Your total price is $120,151. And there breaks down into a couple of different vendors between Motorola, Waymeyers, and IndyProNet, who is our IT provider here for Avon. So I know it's a lot to unpack. I wanted to offer as many details as I could here on the record for everybody to understand. I would note earlier today, Indiana State Police did roll out their initiative that they had been working on for about the last year. They chose a different platform. They went with Axon. This device here we feel is the better fit for our agency, and we can actually integrate this with our existing technology. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, first of all, I think we need it just for the safety of our officers, and I'm fine with that. When you look at the numbers, you got my attention when they said they're requiring that we buy the 5-year warranty. Well, then if you add in the other warranty on the networking, which is another almost $11,000, of this price, 35% of it is for warranties. And I'm thinking, whenever I buy something at Lowe's or whatever, I don't buy the warranty. No, that's just me.
So let me just clarify one thing that you said, and maybe I may have misspoke, but it's not that they require you to purchase the warranty. They require you to purchase it at the time of this if you want it. So we could abandon a 5-year warranty on this proposal and save the difference. But to be very clear, it will come with a standard 12-month warranty. But if you want the 5-year warranty, now is the time you're required to do so. So it's not that they're making you purchase the warranty. They're saying if that's the one you want, then yes, we're making you buy that now as term of the agreement. I hope I made that clear. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So it's an additional 4 years is what you're buying.
That's correct. Yes, sir. That's correct.
The other thing too, in your numbers,
Yes, sir.
we're buying 35 units, but in your numbers, there's 31 and then there's 4.
Yep.
What's the difference between the 31 and the 4?
So the 4s are on detectives. So our detectives do not have in-car cameras. So the idea is that our detectives have unmarked vehicles that do not have the forward-looking cameras, the hard drives, and the cables that are installed in their police vehicles. So right out the gate, you have 4 systems that are going to come in that are not going to require all the additional peripherals or the vehicle installation components. So I asked them to break that down by 4. The 38 that you have are the other vehicles in the fleet in which our uniformed officers are in each and every day, as well as a couple of pool vehicles. That we have a vehicle that goes down for maintenance. They go to get a pool vehicle. That pool vehicle that they have for a week or 2 weeks while they're getting brakes or some sort of a repair, that officer is not without his or her body camera at that point.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Brian, does that warranty extend beyond just the body camera? Does it does include the peripherals, any extra installation inside the car?
It would be
very rare that something would go wrong there. It'd most likely be at the body camera, but I'm kind of with Greg. I'm worried about the cost of this warranty.
Yeah, and I honestly struggle with the warranty as well, because in some sense you feel like you're spending money on something that you're
Almost
not.
double the price,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. You know, I struggle with that. The peripherals that go into the vehicles are covered by the 12-month warranty. So when I talk about peripherals, I am talking about things like shipping. And these numbers here, when you see peripherals, that includes shipping to get the product to us. It does include some cables. All of the hardware that goes into the vehicle itself is within a 12-month warranty. And then the actual camera itself is the only device covered for, as you put it earlier, it's a good way of looking at it, year 2 through 5 with that 5-year warranty.
Do you think it would make sense to get warranty on half of them and not warranty on the other half?
I really don't think so. I think my opinion is, at that point it becomes, well, whose device do you do a warranty for? We have detectives that go in, normally like myself, plain clothes today. They'll go into a residence and it'd be a high-risk warrant type situation. So they gear up, right? They have tactical vests that they wear. And now this is a resource that they've never had. And so they're going to have one of these strapped onto their chest. And so I think we get into the point where we say, well, in some sense, who do we suspect will break it first? I mean, it's kind of almost what you're trying to figure out. I don't really have any way to really quantify where that higher risk may exist within our staff. So I do feel like it's in the best approach. Obviously, it's a great investment, but I would hate for year 2 or 3 to come up and we're coming back and we're asking for additional appropriations for $1,000 that we may not have then. And I know we have a lot of cloud over us about COVID revenues and whatnot still coming about too. So that's why our suggestion is to buy the full 5-year for all 35 units.
Brian, would you also think that going after the 5 years, maybe we could look at the risk and look at the experience we've had and maybe at that time say, not renew a warranty, or moving forward with new products, not doing a warranty?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, that's the hardest question that I think you can ask is, where will we be at in 5 years? I think, a year and a half ago, if someone said, where will you be at in 2 years? We'd all say, well, it's been an interesting year and a half. So, it's a hard thing to say. I mean, we feel very comfortable with what WatchGuard was and what Motorola presents as far as a nice, dependable product. And when those two companies came together, I really feel like it was a confidence for us to know that we're not buying from a new vendor. There are other agencies that are moving to this platform. According to the individual we spoke with at Motorola, Plainfield is actually leaving one of their platforms, which is a Motorola product, and they are also moving to this platform, the V300, on their body cams. I feel better when I hear other agencies, especially people that we have trusted working relationships with, when they share the same perspective on this technology. So it's very similar in the sense to when we went to the 800 radios about 10 to 12 years ago. We had to kind of migrate out of our old systems when we left the low band radios into the 800 megahertz range. We really had to kind of do that collectively. And we were fortunate to have a dispatch center that led that process, and they did their research. And I think you're still going with a company that has all that research and development implemented into this technology today.
Okay.
Sir.
Last question. You may have said it earlier. Are we going to continue with the in-car cameras as well?
Yes, sir. Yeah, to us, there's a lot of components to this system that are just incredible. We have a feature called Record After the Fact, right? And what that basically is a feature in the in-car system as well as the body cam, that if we ever run into a situation where an officer forgets to turn their camera on, and that does happen, there's some scrutiny that happens purposefully. I really object to that sort of a standard baseline argument. I think the reality is when you're in a stressful, tense, rapidly evolving and uncertain situation, sometimes you're not always thinking about, well, let me turn the camera on. And so you try to find things to allow these technologies to kind of be forward thinking in the situations that you're in. This technology is available in this camera, and that if we have an incident that were to take place at a time that things were very tense and you thought to yourself, oh my gosh, I forgot to turn my camera on, this is always recording. So if anyone were to ever file a complaint against an officer, it's always recording, even if the officer thought that he or she may have been engaged in a low risk type situation. And that's actually benefited us quite a bit because the same technology exists with our in-car cameras as well. And that's actually defeated a lot of baseless allegations about poor driving behavior from our staff. Almost every single call that we get, we're able to go back into those cameras and show that the circumstances were certainly not how they were reported to us.
Any other discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the body camera purchase from WatchGuard Video / Motorola Solutions in an amount up to $120,151 as presented by Deputy Chief Nugent.
We have a first. Do we have any more discussion or a second?
Just a question. Do we need to also authorize Julie to pay for it? Does that need to be included in the motion?
I was going to include it, but I think in here there is like a percentage of the payment on delivery and another percentage of the payment upon installation. So, I mean,
My
either way.
relationship with Motorola right now is net 30.
Okay.
They invoice me and on the next check register.
Just wanted to make sure that
No,
that's
you're-
all. Got it. And I'll second Greg's motion.
Great. We have a first and a second. Julie?
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Aaron Teveba,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate your support.
Thanks, Brian.
Taylor, you're going to look at these contracts too, right? Thank you. I got it on video.
All right, next under new business is engineer selection for the roundabout located at 100 North and Raceway Road. Steve?
Steve Moore, Public Works Director. We had a request for qualifications for design for the intersection of 100 North and Raceway Road for the design of a roundabout there to replace existing signalized intersection. We received 7 proposals from 7 very qualified firms. I was very happy with the response. One company did rise above the rest. All 4 scorers chose the same company as their number 1 choice, and that would be Etica Group, and I recommended to council that we engage services.
Thank you. Any discussion?
It was fun reading those proposals. I enjoy it. Anytime you guys get a chance to do these things, they put you to sleep.
I was just about to say, Steve, you're the only one who'd find fun in that.
No, it's good. And I love the metrics. I mean, you've got the numbers here for all the weighting process. And I think it's great if we could just make sure that each of the members could put comments in there, and you do, you have a line for it. But I think that's good. Other than that, I agree with the rating here. It's been good.
Do we have anyone that wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'd like to take staff's recommendation and the group that selected approval of Etica Group to perform the preliminary engineering of services and right-of-way acquisition for Raceway at 100 North Roundabout.
I'll second.
Any further discussion at all? No? Julie?
Aaron Teveba,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next is a resolution, public hearing, and resolution 2021-15, which is confirming designation of economic revitalization area for VTRE development.
Yes, so this is, we received a request from VTRE Development LLC for a tax abatement on Avon Landing. It is proposed for 3 speculative buildings. This was a slight change from the previous design that the council may have seen, but we do believe that this proposed layout is actually a more beneficial layout to us as a taxing entity, so we're happy to see this modification. We are required for a tax abatement to notice it for public hearing, and we are also required to notify all the impacted taxing agencies. So school corporations, township, library, county have all been notified. And so they were made aware of the opportunity to come tonight to a public hearing and comment if they had any concerns, and they were provided the same information the town council has provided here. So you do need to open the public hearing. You do have Matt Price and a representative from VTRE who are here as well. I think they'd maybe at least like to introduce themselves. So you may give them a second to introduce themselves, and then you could open the public hearing and then decide how you want to proceed with the resolution.
Okay, would you guys like to go ahead and come forward?
Yes, Madam President, council members, my name is Matt Price. I'm the attorney for Van Trust, which is the developer of the Avon Landing project. With me tonight is Phil Racy, who made the trip over on I-70 from Columbus for this evening. As Ryan mentioned, the first phase of the project contemplates 3 new buildings for distribution and logistics type uses. They range in size from approximately 100,000 square feet up to 333,000 square feet is the largest of the 3. Altogether, they comprise just under $60 million in new investment. The company that you'll hear the name of and really is a new investor in Avon is Van Trust, as I mentioned. They're actually headquartered in Kansas City, but have projects all across the country, and Phil's home base is in Columbus, Ohio. They're a premier developer in this region, very experienced in logistics and distribution type uses. I asked Phil as we were just chatting before the meeting convened whether he was seeing the absorption rates for this type of land use continuing, meaning as they build these buildings. I think we all see a lot of activity in this industry sector. Do they continue to be purchased and leased? And his answer was an unqualified yes. The demand has remained very consistently high, particularly in the greater Indianapolis marketplace. So Phil and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have, and we appreciate the opportunity for your consideration of this resolution this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Just chime in again. Thank you for hearing us tonight. Again, Phil Racy with Van Trust Development. Really excited about this project. This would be our 8th project in the Indianapolis region. So obviously first in Avon. We think your community has a lot of benefits that I think will market to the tenants that we're going after. So I think we're really excited to get anxious to move dirt hopefully this year if we can get all the approvals. But again, as Matt said, we're headquartered in Kansas City, but we have 5 offices throughout the country. Primarily industrial, office, and kind of multifamily. So we do different things besides industrial. It's just industrial happens to be the most active right now of our sector. So happy to answer any questions. Again, thank you for the consideration tonight.
Thank you. With that said, we'll go ahead and open the public comment. If there's anyone that would like to come forward. No one coming forward? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing on that. And is there anyone that would like to make any recommendations?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2021-15, a confirmatory resolution of the Avon Town Council for the designation of an economic revitalization area and approval of real property tax abatement application.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion among council? With none, Julie?
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Aaron Teveba,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
We look forward to you moving your world headquarters to Avon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is an introduction of Ordinance 2021-13, which is technical correction to town code.
Yes, you have 5 ordinances here for introduction, which relate to corrections or amendments being made to the town code. The first one's easy. It's what we call technical corrections, which are very small changes that were found that need to be corrected. And so those are 3 kind of really simple changes on 2013 or 2021-13 relating to our no cash policy, a reference to a town board, which doesn't exist anymore, and a spelling change. And so the first one is just those technical corrections that are made. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. It's just introduction.
Do you think vacancies, they meant to put vaccines? Was that the spelling that they were going to do there?
It was just spelling, yeah.
I saw that.
Okay, we will go ahead and consider ordinance 2021-13 introduced. Moving on to ordinance 2021-14, amendment to provisions regarding regulations of canvassers.
Yes, this would make a change to your regulation of canvassers, very minor change, but important regarding the hour limitations that are placed upon canvassers. So remember, canvassers are primarily political, people passing out political information. It's a very strong First Amendment right. And there was a case that came out of the Seventh Circuit last year, which indicated that ordinances which use a time for the latest solicitation is really not enforceable, because if you're intending to, deter crime and not have people calling your house after dark, you ought to just say dark instead of saying 9 o'clock, because it's not always dark at 9 o'clock, depending on the time of year. So you've already made this change with regard to business solicitation. And so this very simply changes, it doesn't change the morning limitation, it's still 9 a.m., but would change 9 p.m. to sunset. Again, this is introduction.
Any comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and consider ordinance 2021-14 introduced. Next is ordinance 2021-15, amendment to provisions regarding clerk treasurer and town manager.
Yes, this would amend substantially, I guess, the provisions in the town code regarding clerk treasurer and town manager. And it's not because it's not because of any real change in these job descriptions. It's just that the existing provisions are dated, and the law has changed regarding what the duties and obligations of these 2 positions are. For example, a lot has been added to the clerk treasurer's job, and those don't exist in your current ordinance. And also there have been some changes about eligibility to run. And so what we did here is we have very simply just taken the Indiana code when it says what are the duties and obligations of the clerk treasurer. We've just included those in there. We've not tried to be creative. These are all right out of the statute as it relates to the duties and obligations. And so this is just really an update of your code to bring it 25 years into the future, perhaps. Same with town manager. You're not really changing the job, but the statute has changed considerably. Some of those are because obligations that have been imposed by the DLGF, for example, or regarding bonding. And so these are all changes made right out of the statute so that you would have an accurate description in your town code of what these 2 jobs are, what the duties are.
Any discussion on those?
I think Julie should be required to attend all council meetings when that's all struck out. So, we enjoy having you here, so.
Did you notice all the red that was added, though?
Yeah, I know. You got a little more red on this one than the other. No comment.
All right, we'll go ahead and consider ordinance 2021-15 introduced as well. Next is introduction of ordinance 2021-16, amendment to provisions regarding regulations of parking in designated spaces for persons with physical disability or disabled veterans.
Yes, this is the same kind of change. The law has changed a little bit since the last look at your parking regulations for persons with physical disability or disabled veterans. And so these changes would bring your current regulations into line with those changes. Some of those changes are just how we talk about it. You'll notice that the magic word is disabled. Who's your veteran? That phrase is what we say now in the statute. And so that has a legal meaning, believe it or not. So we need to use that. It also has expanded the use of these spaces for disability transport vehicles, which really is clarified that if you're taking someone who's disabled or disabled who's your veteran to an appointment, you may park there whether you have a placard or not. So there were subtle changes made to the law on these places. And I know that in the, when we do planning reviews and development plan reviews of projects, we try to pay close attention to where these spaces located. Are they in the right place? And our planning department does that. And so every once in a while, we peek at this section to make sure that our law is consistent with state law. This would bring us right up to date.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we'll consider it introduced. Next is 2021-17, Amendment to Provisions of Police Department regarding school resource officers and take-home cars.
Yes, this ordinance makes two really simple changes, but important ones. The first is that for many years, your police department organizational provisions have included mention of school officers, school resource officers. And with the advent of the school corporation's own department, then that negates the need for that, at least at the time being. And so we would delete that to make sure we don't have any question about whether we do or do not have school resource officers. And then secondly, under 252, there was a Supreme Court case that came out last year, which dealt with immunity for officers driving in an off-duty manner. And so the chief and I spent some time making sure that the general orders that he has lined up with and required officers to do the things that give them immunity in order to protect the town from liability. And so when we reviewed this code section, we found this provision, which had some rules about the use of vehicles. And again, I think this is one of those archaic things that everybody forgot about. So this amendment would say essentially that the chief of police will make orders regarding the use of take-home cars by police officers, and those will be the rules. And again, we modify those from time to time based upon the law, based upon cases. And the whole idea is not only to regulate the use, but also to protect the town from liability. And so I believe that this is the way this issue should be dealt with, because we can deal with it in a much better way outside of our town code by having the police chief, who has the authority to modify his orders whenever he'd like. We can more quickly respond to changes that need to be made.
Any discussion? Questions?
My only question is, these are all introductions. Is there any need to move to a final hearing, or we can wait 2 weeks?
I think you're absolutely fine. And we have, I'll cover that by the group. No, we're fine.
Okay.
All right, we'll have that marked as introduced and move on to legal counsel report.
And I appreciate your question, Greg. The next wave of ordinances you'll see introduced next time will be those that relate to new laws. And so we've already drafted most of those, but that'll be the next 5 or 6 you'll see will relate to that. And so we will have those for you for consideration. There was some legislation I think we'll welcome. There was some legislation that looks like it's just going to make things harder, but still the law. So we'll get you compliant. One of the things that council needs to think about and give us feedback about is the electronic participation law. And that, in reaction to the pandemic, the governor's executive orders allowed you to meet remotely or by electronic means. So moving forward, if we have an emergency, those rules will kind of still apply. But if you wish to meet or have the ability to participate and vote remotely, even when there's not an emergency, you have to adopt a written policy about that. And so I'll be sending you some information about what that policy would look like if you want to do that. But it does have to be a written policy. It would allow, under the state's limitations that are new, it would allow you to participate remotely in up to 2 consecutive meetings and also no more than 50% of your meetings and still be able to vote. Under the old rule, as you remember, you could participate remotely, you just couldn't vote. And so the state has opened that door a little bit about electronic participation, but at the same time, said that you can't vote remotely or participate remotely on certain issues like adoption of a budget or the exercise of eminent domain or the initiation of a referendum or certain what the state legislature believes are really important issues where your presence might be better. Now, some municipalities are not adopting such policies. They're just saying that unless there's an emergency, you've got to be here to vote. Some are adopting them because they learned during the pandemic that, well, this remote participation is okay if I'm on business or on vacation. I was elected and my constituents might still want me to participate. So the council will need to decide how you want to move forward on that. The governor has extended the public health emergency until the end of July. I believe that's related to the eligibility for federal funds so I think this is probably going to go away. So certainly by your next meeting, you'll need to make some decision about what you want your policy to be regarding remote participation. No right answer or wrong answer. You already streamed your meeting, so you got the technology all done. You got the hard part done. But be thinking about that, and I'll email you kind of the draft policy based upon the new state law so you can begin to consider how you would like to do that. And there'll be some other new laws, but this one's kind of one where it's very simply you all need to give us direction about what you want to do moving beyond August 1st.
Thank you. We will open the our last public comment session. If there's anyone that would like to come forward. Okay, we'll go ahead and close that. The next up is council comment, council comment. Anyone?
We did attendance numbers for the 3rd of July. We did not. I can check with Gary and see if he's got an estimate based on parking, but we didn't charge for parking, so it's going to be hard to determine.
Thank you. I would like to say thank you, Scott, for coming and joining us tonight. Council calendar.
Not much. July 22nd is our next regularly scheduled meeting. I'll maybe just ask, I know we've had some busy agendas for work sessions. I don't know if there's things that the council feels urgent that they would want to have a work session before the next meeting, but if you do want to do that, let me know, and certainly we could do that before the next meeting. I don't know that I have a lot for you guys unless you want to cover some of the stuff that we didn't get to today, but I did provide you guys some information in your packets on some of that stuff. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you at 7 o'clock on the 22nd.
Thank you. We're adjourned.